we would need to get debt restructurings and a gold revaluation. A gold revaluation through market forces or through an action of joint cooperation between central bankers, where gold will be revalued to a much higher level, let's say $20,000, because that helps the central bank's balance sheets. I wouldn't be surprised to see a 10-to-1 gold-silver ratio again. And that would mean when gold is at 5,000, which we're almost there, 10-to-1, silver is at 500. But I don't expect gold to top out at 5,000. I expect gold to top out maybe around 20,000 in the years ahead, let's say 5 years out from now. And if you do a 10-to-1 then, that's $2,000. And when you know the fundamental shortages, the supply, the production deficits in silver, those numbers could well happen.
The global financial system is entering a revaluation phase driven by excessive debt, declining confidence in fiat currencies, and the limits of central bank policy. One realistic outcome is debt restructuring paired with a significant gold revaluation, either through market forces or coordinated central bank action. A substantially higher gold price would help restore credibility to balance sheets while anchoring a transition toward a more competitive, multipolar monetary system. At the same time, chronic silver supply deficits and rising industrial demand are setting the stage for an extreme repricing across precious metals. Willem Middelkoop, a longtime macro investor focused on monetary history, argues that this process is still in its early innings. He outlines scenarios in which gold could be revalued to $20,000 over the coming years. If a historic 10-to-1 gold-silver ratio re-emerges under those conditions, silver prices near $2,000 become mathematically plausible, especially given production shortages and limited discoveries. Middelkoop also points to sustained central bank gold accumulation and evolving BRICS settlement frameworks as evidence that hard assets are quietly returning to the core of global finance. Now, we present the clips from Willem Middelkoop's interview. Before we continue to discuss this, please subscribe to our channel and activate the bell icon for timely updates. Thank you, and enjoy the video.
I'm old enough to remember I bought my first physical silver over 20 years ago when it was trading $5, $6. So we went up 10x in the last 20 years. And most people don't have the mental flexibility to look in the future and see a silver price could go 10x. Well, it happened in the last 20 years. And if you take 10x from the current level, it's $600 actually. And you also might be aware that the gold-silver ratio should be 1:10. If you look from a geological point of view, there's 10 times more silver in the ground than gold. And actually, it's almost harder to make a good silver discovery nowadays than a gold discovery. And because silver is used as a commodity in the industry, 70-80% is used before investors can get a hold on it. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a 10-to-1 gold-silver ratio again. And that would mean when gold is at 5,000, which we're almost there, 10-to-1, silver is at 500. But I don't expect gold to top out at 5,000. I expect gold to top out maybe around 20,000 in the years ahead, let's say 5 years out from now. And if you do a 10-to-1 then, that's $2,000 silver. And when you know the fundamental shortages, the supply, the production deficits in silver, those numbers could well happen. You know, they're all in this whole game, this revaluation. It's still early, and if you then look at the equities, 15% of our fund, the Commodity Discovery Fund, is invested in silver equities. It's very hard to find good silver equities because most of them are half gold related as well, because there's so few very good silver names out there. And these silver names, their assets, their ounces in the ground are still valued pennies to the dollar. So I think we're very early in this whole revaluation game. We needed to move to a new phase of the international monetary system. a phase in which the dollar wouldn't be the main anchor anymore. So the move to the multipolar world, which actually what's happening nowadays. So it's not about the collapse of the dollar or the collapse of the US. It's more that you can expect competition. It's not only about US anymore. It's not only about US dollar anymore. And we're moving away now from this one globalized world into this bifurcation where you have a Western system and you have this BRIC system developing, and the BRIC system will be like a trading system where settlement could be done maybe with gold or maybe with a BRICS currency, which called the unit, which might be 40% back to gold. It's still uncertain. Another part of the thesis of the big reset that we would need to get debt restructurings and a gold revaluation through market forces or through an action of joint cooperation between central bankers, where gold will be revalued to a much higher level, let's say $20,000, because that helps the central bank's balance sheets. And when I wrote down this thesis, that's over 10 years ago, that sounded like a stretch, but now it's all starting to unfold. We see the current revaluation through market forces. We haven't seen joint actions by central bankers. I expect that to happen when a new financial crisis will get very severe. But that's something, which could happen in the years ahead. Well, one could say is that there are not that many cards left in the hands of central bankers. And I was expected they would play the gold revaluation card as one of the last cards. It's like the card you keep behind, because that can really help you in a situation where people have lost trust in the fiat money system, in the international monetary system, and we're in the first innings of that to happen. Because if you look at why gold and silver are seeing this rapid rise now, is because there's a huge distrust, not only among investors and the retail audience because of the debasement of currencies, the higher inflation, what we've seen, especially after COVID, since COVID. But we've seen central bankers themselves fleeing towards gold. This is the fourth year in a row central bankers are buying over 1,000 tons of gold, which is massive because world gold production is just 3,500 tons of gold. So when central bankers are starting to flee towards gold, what message does that send to the general public? So I think the next phase to expect is that more and more people are starting to turn paper assets into hard assets, gold, real estate, silver, Bitcoin being the hardest of all. And once this move once these funds flow starts to become too large to almost control, that's the point in time where you can expect central bankers to bring gold back into the system, to send a message to the audience. Look, guys, you don't have to flee out of the paper assets, because we back them again with something tangible. But the jury is still out. But if you look at the latest BRICS proposals, the BRICS countries, where China is, of course, in the lead, it's turning that way already. Because if you read the latest analysis about the unit, which will be the settlement currency for the BRICS, that points to a 40% gold connection. It shows the way. It shows their line of thinking.
Silver is steadily moving from a fringe investment into a mainstream strategic metal. Governments are now classifying silver as critical, while industrial demand continues to expand through solar energy, electronics, and electrification. At the same time, decades of production deficits and the exhaustion of above-ground stockpiles have left the physical market increasingly tight. Much of the silver once held in coins has already been consumed by industry, leaving little buffer as demand accelerates. As purchasing power across fiat currencies continues to erode, investors are turning to tangible assets that retain value over the long term. Gold has led this shift, but silver is increasingly becoming the accessible alternative for households and institutions alike. With equity valuations stretched and commodity-linked assets still relatively undervalued, capital rotation into precious and critical metals appears increasingly likely, especially as market volatility rises. Let's get back to the interview.
Physical silver was always dominated by, let's say, the gold and silver bucks, who had this very critical point of view on the paper international monetary system. But now it's getting much more, well, almost mainstream. US just added silver on the list of 60 critical metals. That tells you a lot. Russia added silver to their strategic holdings. I think countries like China and India know how important silver is for their economies. Silver is poor man's gold, so with gold trading around 5,000 for many of the more poor retail crowd out there, let's say India, where gold plays a huge role in society, with the marriages and as gold is given as gift. Many people think they can't buy enough gold at current prices, so they start to buy silver. And silver being used as a commodity in so many industries. So look at the solar panels, and every iPhone has a gram of silver. So silver is becoming more and more mainstream, where it was always like almost a fringe investment. And silver is a given good, which means when the price goes up, demand increases. So the investors, the hedge fund crowds are starting to look at silver now as well. And it's just such a tiny market. And we've seen production deficits for such a long time. And you could actually say since the 1970s, that's 50 years ago, the silver physical markets have been very, well, tight. We used to have all these silver coins. I used silver coins myself in the Netherlands in the 1980s. It was still, well, quite normal to pay with silver coins. And of course, we don't use them anymore because silver became too valuable. But it means we had all these old silver coins which were remelted and which have been used up in the industry over the last 3, 4, 5 decades. And all that old silver is gone now. So we're looking at the bottom of the barrel, so to say. So I expect some real physical silver stress to develop over the next few months, quarters, years, and that could send silver much, much higher. The purchasing power of the dollar lost 99% since the start of the Federal Reserve, which main purpose is to keep the value of the dollar more or less like it is. The purchasing power of the dollar in gold terms went down another 90% in the last 25 years. So currencies, and you see that with all paper currencies, it's not just the dollar, they're all turning down the purchasing power against gold. And you almost reach the tipping point where you have they seem to be falling off a cliff now. If we would be able to show a chart like that, the incrementum guys have built a few nice charts which show all these currencies are the valuation, the purchasing power is falling off a cliff now against gold. So everybody who invested in gold or silver or other hard assets in recent years have done quite well in paper terms. And I expect that to continue. And so people always think it's too late. They missed the boat. No, well, you missed the first part, but you can always go down another 90% and then another 90% in paper terms. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
And
true.
that's what happens in periods of hyperinflation. And I'm not predicting we'll end up into hyperinflation. It could happen, but I think it won't. I don't expect it to happen because central bankers will pull the gold card before hyperinflation is starting um, to happen. So they know what to do. Central banks aren't stupid. They studied monetary history. These guys know. They know the mistakes of the past. People in the East look more like gold and silver as physical assets, which are traditional owned within the families. Here in the West, we're more focused on financial assets, investments, funds, ETFs. It's almost the end of 25, and then we all look at what investments, which funds, which ETFs perform best. Our fund is up 63% year to date. We're very precious metals oriented, but there's only 50%. The other 50% is critical metals. But if we look at the investment side, when people will look at the end of this year and early 26 at who perform best, then the precious metal funds and ETFs will look very bright. And if you look at general equities, especially in non-dollar terms, we're here in the euro area. And in euro terms, the S&P, the Nasdaq, and the Dow haven't performed well. So I expect a rotation out of the more, let's say, traditional stocks, even maybe tech stocks, which are highly inflated, one could say. A PE ratio of 25, they call cheap in tech. A PE ratio of 25 in precious metals company. That's has a very rich valuation. Look at Newmont and Barrick; they have a valuation of price earnings ratios of just 10. From a valuation perspective, even after this huge run in precious metals related stocks, which went up on average 100%, it's still cheap. So I expect rotation out of this general equities into the commodity related, precious metals related stocks. So we could see more stress into financial markets in 26, maybe from a geopolitical. The geopolitical tension is rising. I think, on average, investors are too complacent and they don't see the risks out there. I was just listening to a podcast in the last 24 hours where they interviewed more than a dozen fund managers, and nobody was expecting some real financial crisis for next year. So that could be the wild card. That we will see the return of volatility, maybe even a crisis in 26 or 27.
Silver's position in the global market is changing in ways that go far beyond short-term price moves. What was once considered a niche investment is increasingly being recognized as a strategic metal, essential to both industrial growth and long-term value preservation. Persistent supply tightness, years of production deficits, and rising institutional awareness are reshaping silver's role in the broader monetary landscape. At the same time, elevated equity valuations and rising geopolitical and financial risks are prompting investors to reassess where real value lies. Capital rotations often happen gradually, then all at once, and tangible assets tend to benefit when confidence in paper markets begins to waver. Viewing silver through this wider lens helps separate long-term trends from short-term volatility. Share your thoughts on his analysis in the comment section below. If you find this video informative, please support and turn on notifications to stay informed about our latest videos. See you in the following video. Thanks for watching.